Welcome to the Kevin Dunn Show, and we are so excited that you're taking the time out to join us. Hope you are having a wonderful day. Another special show on tap for you today. We have a young lady who was a single mom, and she's actually put 2 daughters through high school successfully, and she's also recently been elected principal of Lynette High School. When we come back from the commercial break, we're going to hear more of her story and her testimony here on the Kevin Dunn Show.
At Charter Bank, you get totally free checking with online statements. You betcha. Free mobile banking, free online banking, free online bill pay, free debit card, even a new account gift. Free. At Charter Bank, we're here to wow you. And totally free checking is just the beginning. Come see us or open online at charterbank.net. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Choosing a new home can be one of the most difficult decisions of your life, whether the choice is for you or a loved one. Poplar Creek specializes in intimate, individual, personal care for each resident through a staff that knows each resident personally. Poplar Creek is a senior living community specializing in senior living and memory care. Dining is always a relaxing event in their beautiful dining area where they provide full table service. Enjoy a full list of amenities, including a beautiful outside walking area and a beauty and barber salon. Make the right choice. Make Poplar Creek your new home.
We welcome you back to the Kevin Dunn Show. Our special guest today here is Principal Jennifer Boyd.
Good morning.
Principal of Lynette High School. So you had a few seconds to come out and be a guest on the show today, huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
We thank you so much for being a guest on the show. You have an incredible story, incredible testimony. You've actually, I'll let you tell it. We'll just get right into the interview. Okay. Now, when you were in high school in the 9th grade, what did you want to do after high school?
Probably in the 9th grade, honestly, I did not know exactly what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. But all along, I knew that I would do something great. Mm-hmm. Probably by the time I graduated from high school, mm-hmm. I was leaning more toward nursing, mm-hmm. and nursing kind of shifted way over to business administration. Mm-hmm. And in particular, I kind of grew a love for the human resource side and mm-hmm. working in education and training. And so all of that has now evolved, and I'm in the educational field, and right. I absolutely love what I do.
That's great. That's great. Now, in high school, what type of student were you? Were you average, mediocre, or were you just an exceptional good student?
I was an exceptional student. I've always been fairly studious. Okay. I took the advanced courses. Mm-hmm. Even after having my first daughter, mm-hmm. I jumped right back in, mm-hmm. Picked up where I left off, mm-hmm. continued with my academics, and mm-hmm. I was able to excel and actually graduated in the top of my class.
Okay, sounds great. Now, I know early on in life, and we tell kids this now, we say, well, when you grow up, you're going to be an astronaut, doctor, lawyer. Your teacher's perception of you back in high school, what would they have said Jennifer Boyd would become later on in life?
I certainly don't think that they would have thought that I would be where I am today. Uh-huh. I wasn't necessarily the most vocal person, mm-hmm. But I did my work, and mm-hmm. I think that they knew that I would go on and that I would be able to excel. Mm-hmm. And even now, actually, I have a person that taught me mm-hmm. that actually works under me. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because she laughs about it. She always says, I never imagined that you would be my boss. But okay. This is where I am today, and I'm uh-huh. just truly thankful for the opportunity to serve.
Wow, that's good, that's good. Now, take us back to the birth of your first child, single mom.
Right.
When you first received the news, well, how old were you when you had your first child?
I was 15.
15?
Yes, 15 years old. I mm-hmm. had my daughter the summer before my junior year. Mm-hmm. My birthday was in September, and I had her in July. Mm-hmm. So it was a huge change.
Huge change. So when you first received that news at 15, can you take us back to what were you actually feeling?
Actually, I think the first thought, more so than thinking about myself, I always had a concern for my parents.
Right,
I felt that I had disappointed them. So I was raised in a 2-parent home, and I didn't want people to think that my parents didn't run a tight ship, because they did.
Okay.
I think I was more concerned about them.
Right.
But then also disappointed in myself
Right.
for the choices that I had made.
Okay. Okay. Now, did you actually did you ever just tell yourself, or did you ever think that your life was over because of?
I didn't think that my life was over, and I think that is mainly because, number one, the grace of God, but also because I had a very strong support system. My parents, my extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, nobody ever treated me any differently. They set high expectations, and even after having my first daughter, my parents never lowered those expectations, and they still pushed me to go on. They pushed me to go on to college, and I think that now, I think that they're proud of me.
Okay, I'm pretty sure they are. Incredible accomplishments in your life. Now let's go back to the birth of your second daughter. Now, how old were you when you had your second child?
I was 19.
19.
So 4 years later, somehow, seemingly, I made the same mistake. And you talk about a change. We go from a single parent with 1 daughter to having 2 daughters, going to college full time, working. I had my own apartment, I had my own car, so I had all of those responsibilities piled on me at one time. And it was difficult. It was difficult. That's the best word that I can give you. It was difficult. Difficult.
15, 19,
Right.
2 kids,
Right.
by yourself. Was there ever a time going through this transition in life, did you feel sorry for yourself?
Again, I didn't necessarily feel sorry for myself. I was just so disappointed. Even with the second pregnancy, I was so disappointed in myself that I had fallen into that same trap. I had made those same choices when I knew what the consequences were.
Right.
Yet and still, I made a bad choice. And I think it was at that point to where I knew that I had to decide for myself that either I was going to make a turnaround, because if I continued to repeat that cycle, then, you know, I didn't know what the end was going to be. I know it wasn't going to be good.
Right, right. Now, statistics would say a person in your position at 19 years of age with 2 daughters, a single mom, statistics would say that you would probably become totally dependent on government assistance the rest of your life. What are some other things that propel you to not being a part of the statistics?
First of all, I would say that my faith in God. I was reared in a home to where we had faith in God. And I would say that that's the first factor, but also having a strong support system. But on top of that, never let myself get to the point to where I thought little of myself.
Right, right.
I had to believe in myself. And it got to the point to where I knew that those same gifts and talents that God had placed in me long time ago, well before I began to make those bad choices, those same gifts and talents were still there. And once I could begin to believe in myself and begin to focus on the fact that, okay, Jennifer, God gave you these gifts and talents and abilities. And right now they're laying dormant because of the choices that you've been making. And I just had to decide, you know, hey, I got to get up. I got to get up out of this rut. I got to stop repeating the cycle. That's the only way that I'm going to be able to excel in life. And so pretty much once I got past that and I was able to get past what people said.
People said, yeah, please elaborate on how you handled that.
One part that made it so difficult, first of all, again, thinking about my parents and what people were saying about them, but also the negativity that came with having children out of wedlock at a young age. You know, people can be so cruel.
Right.
We can be very judgmental.
Right.
And it's kind of like one wrong we place in a hierarchy. And having children out of wedlock, although it's wrong, sometimes we have that high on the list. And I can remember people looking at me, I don't care if it was at the mall, even sometimes maybe even at church, people would kind of look. And I just often felt so ashamed because of the looks and because of the comments that were being made.
And that And that was enough to crush you right there.
Really, and if you're not a strong person mentally, in which I see with a lot of our young women that are in similar predicaments, they're not as strong, and they begin to listen to the negativity, and they begin to listen to the voices that say, hey, you got 2 kids, you might as well forget it.
Right.
You know,
right.
you can't allow yourself to succumb to that type of negativity. And I'm just so thankful that my faith in God and listening to the voice of God, I was able to begin to make wiser choices.
That's great. And if you would have gave up, I mean, you would have missed out on so much.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about your self-esteem when you were going through this. Did you have low self-esteem, or are you pretty much?
I think there was always an ongoing battle to where externally I tried to pretend that it was all good, as we say.
All right.
But really on the inside, again, there was a sense of shame. And a lot of times there was a cloud of shame that was over me. You may have seen me walking and smiling, but at the same time, you know, I felt shame on the inside for the choices that I had made and, you know, the consequences that came along with it. But again, that's something that you have to rise above, because if you stay there, you'll never do anything.
Exactly.
And if you focus so much on what others say about you, you'll never do anything positive.
Anything. That's awesome, awesome. So what was your approach on raising these 2 young ladies early on?
Well, first of all, my parents made sure that I was instilling the correct morals and values in my kids. Of course, with my first daughter, I was still in the home with my parents, and Mama made sure that I handled my responsibilities. She made sure that I knew that there were consequences to the choices that I had made. So I think reflecting on how my parents raised me, our family structure, I pretty much followed in that same mold.
In the same mold. So did that approach change later on, or pretty much you had the same approach throughout raising your girls?
Right. We really have a tight-knit family. Being a single mother, there's not a husband in the home. My parents really, and even now, they still play a very crucial role in the rearing of my girls.
That's good.
They have a close relationship with God. I listen to them even at age 37. They can kind of tell me what to do.
All right.
But I still listen to them. And so I've tried to maintain the same expectations that they had for me. I've tried to set even higher expectations for my girls, and I constantly remind them of it. And I constantly speak positive things to them so that they will always know it's in you and you can do it.
That's good. That's good. Principal Boyd, we're going to have to pause and take a quick commercial break. And when we come back from the commercial break, we're going to find out what it was like for Principal Boyd to raise 2 daughters and go into her graduate degrees. All right. More of Jennifer Boyd when we come back on the Kevin Dunn Show.
What are you doing for lunch today?
Man, I don't know. I was thinking about some wings.
Well, I know where we are going. DJ's. DJ's has bone-in wings, hot or mild, lemon pepper, barbecue, and you gotta try the sweet and spicy.
And DJ's also has boneless wings.
They've got delicious fish and steak sandwiches.
And their salads are big enough to even fill me up.
And top it off with a fruit and ice frozen drink.
Man, I'm hungry.
We're headed to DJ's.
Life in the country is a conscious choice. And with that choice comes hard work, attention to detail, and investing in the right tools to keep your home or farm at its best. So why choose anything but the very best zero turns on the market today? Exmark. Known for their durability, precision cut, and time-saving performance, Exmarks are the preferred brand of mowing equipment for the landscape professional and people like you who take pride in their lawn. For special pricing incentives, visit exmark.com or your local dealer.
Welcome back to the Kevin Dunn Show. Our special guest today is Principal Jennifer Boyd. And right now, Principal Boyd, I wanted to ask you, what was it like raising your kids and you attending college and pursuing graduate degrees? What was that like?
It was really tough. The first time I went back to grad school, because of course my undergraduate degree is in business.
All right.
After that, I pursued an MBA, and I would not have been able to do it without the help and support of my family. My next degree is in instructional leadership, so I'm a go-getter. I'm in and out of school. I'm not done now.
Oh, wow.
I know, no, I'm not done.
You know what that means if you're not done now, but go ahead.
Yeah, I know what I'm gonna do. in the next couple of months. But it was very tough because trying to work, even after going into the classroom, trying to work, trying to go to school, but also making sure that my kids had the opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities. It was difficult. It was a strain, but I have good friends, I have good family members. You know, they helped to kind of ease the burden a little bit
That's
by
good.
helping me as much as they could.
Okay. And I know some of our single moms may be watching, and I'm going to give you another question, and they still want to know how. But you've raised 2 daughters. They both completed high school.
Right.
They exceeded in academics.
Right.
They exceeded in extracurricular activities. One is getting ready to graduate from college.
Right.
You have another one getting ready to go into college.
Right.
Still principal ball. How? I mean, this is kind of unheard of. I mean, once again, I know you said family. I know you say God. What are some other things that were beneficial in you accomplishing this? Because this doesn't happen every day.
Right. With our young ladies, an area that I see that we're lacking in, a lot of young ladies don't have any get up and go about themselves. You gotta have some get up and go about yourself, because people can pray for you, people can try to talk to you and encourage you, but until you actually take that first step, you're not gonna be able to do anything. And I just want our young ladies to get some get up and go about yourself.
Get up
Get
and go.
up out of that rut. It doesn't matter what you've done, you can always make a change. And I think for myself, I just kept telling myself that and just speaking positive thoughts to myself. You know, you can do it. It's gonna be tough, but you can do it. You know, just affirming what God had already told me and affirming what God had already placed inside of me. You know, that's what we have to do. And you have to take the first step. And once you take the first step, it becomes easier and easier. You know, the task at hand may be a little bit difficult, but if you stay positive, tell yourself you can do it. Focus on the Word of God. And don't surround yourself with negative people. That
right.
is the main thing. You cannot surround yourself with negative people, because negative people are going to always give you the what ifs. You know, if this happens or if that happens. You can't surround yourself with negative people. That's the only way you're going to be able to excel in life. You got to stay around positive people, people that have good things to say, people that have an encouraging word. And even when you fall, you don't want to hear anything else negative. So, you know, just surrounding yourself with positive people and with people that are going to help you. If you see somebody, or if you cross somebody that you know really doesn't mean you any good, stay away from them.
Stay away from them. That's good.
Because you're not going to be able to take on work, raising your family, going to school, if you, again, surround yourself with negativity.
That's good. And you just talked about falling. And I'm pretty sure throughout this task you failed a lot.
Right.
Did you ever want to give up later on in life? I know you said early on when you had your daughters you didn't want to give up, but now we got daughters, we got school, we got
Right.
raising family.
Right.
Did you ever think about giving up?
Even now, I mean, you know, we're all human. Even now, sometimes I'm like, I'm just gonna let it all go. But you have to encourage yourself. And I think we all have those moments when we feel like the pressures of life are a little bit too much for us. But you have to continue to encourage yourself. Don't listen to the devil. Don't listen to the enemy. If he comes at you, turn a deaf ear to him and keep it moving. That's one thing that I've taught myself to do. Even when those kind of thoughts come to mind, you know, I'm having a bad day to where I'm saying, you know, this is way too much for me to handle. Just affirming. God placed it in me. God placed it in me. He told me that I could do these things. And then just focusing on that.
Focusing on that. Okay. Like I said earlier, not only did you successfully raise 2 daughters, but you're also a single mom with 2 daughters who just recently became a high school principal.
Right.
Name 3 things in life that prepared you for your role as being a high school principal?
Of course, my educational background, but you know, you can get all the schooling you want. There are some other characteristics that must go along with it. You have to have some perseverance, and you definitely have to have some determination, some self-determination. You have to be self-motivated. These are things that my parents taught me early on, and these things I just continue to let flow. I continue to speak those positive things so that I could excel and so that I could rise to the next level.
Now, what is it like, the balance of being a mother, provider, educator, student. I hear what you're saying about family. I know family played a great part. But what are some other things that balanced you? Because you had so many things to do, and sometimes with so many different tasks, something can go lacking.
Right.
But go ahead and expound on that.
Right. I'm always on the go. I will
That's
tell
true.
you that I'm always on the go. My car is always moving because I got to get to the next destination. But I think that spiritual background, never letting that fall to the wayside. I don't care what you do, whether it be education, whether it be running behind your kids, not letting that spirituality, my relationship with God, fall to the side. Because honestly, you know, I can talk all day, but at the end of the day,
that's good.
That is what has held me up.
Okay. After the birth of your second child, we'll go back to you in 19, about 2 or 3 years ago? We'll say 10 years ago. If someone had walked up to you and said, Jennifer Boyd, you would be principal of a high school one day, what would you have said to them?
Probably not. Again, even if I go all the way back to high school, again, I knew that I would do something great. But sometimes I think in our thinking, we kind of limit what God can do.
That's right.
Now, I could probably see myself being a teacher, but I never would have seen myself being in this position, because sometimes we feel like, whoa, that's way too much for me to handle. And we kind of place limitations on what God already has planned for us. And I think allowing myself to live out what He has planned for me, allowing Him to nurture the gifts and the talents and the abilities that He has already given me, I think that's why I was able to move to the next level.
Now, I know you talk about motivation and perseverance, and you have that, and you had that drive. For someone who does not have that drive, how should they seek to develop the drive that you have? Because how can you do that?
I think the first step is for the person to sit down and to evaluate their own life, evaluate where they are and where they want to be. The next thing to do would be to look at, well, what does it take for me to get from point A to point B? What is it about myself that I need to change in order for me to get from point A to point B? It doesn't matter what anybody else says, until you make up in your own mind that I got to make that step. If I'm at point A, I got to make the first step that's going to lead me toward point B. Doesn't matter who prays for you until you make that first step. A lot of young people are guilty of procrastinating.
Right.
You can't continue to procrastinate. You know, the choice was made a while back. The decision's already been made. And of course, there are going to be consequences that go along with it. But you don't have to continue in that same path. Decide where you want to be in life, what you want to do with your life. Take inventory. What are your interests? What are your gifts? What are your abilities? What are your natural aptitudes? Are you good with your hands? Are you good with data? Are you good with places, things? And then decide, what is it that you want to do? It may not necessarily be for everybody to go to college.
Right.
But there's nothing wrong with getting a technical skill. It's nothing wrong with going directly into the workforce.
That's right.
You know, I think that's great. There are some great high-paying jobs that you can get without going to college. I have friends who are in that predicament now. They make good salaries, but it's not because they stayed at home and sat down.
Not because they stayed at home and sat down.
Right.
So that's the big problem.
Right.
Staying at home, being lazy.
Right. Procrastination. Saying that I'm going to do it next year. You know, I didn't go to college right out of high school, but, you know, I'm going to go next year. I'm going to go 2 years from now. Well, what's keeping you from doing it now?
Right.
And I think a lot of times young people don't necessarily do that. They think that they have all the time in the world.
I've been there.
You know,
Yeah.
And I think we're all guilty of putting things off. But what's wrong with now?
What's wrong with now?
What's wrong with now?
So what advice would you give to a single mom who may be watching right now? She has 2 or 3 children at home, and it's difficult for her, and she wants to give up. What would you say to her?
First of all, never give up. Never give up. You have to get to the point to where you decide, what choices do I need to make as a single mother in order for my children to have a better life? You know, Is it the people that I'm around? Do I need to get rid of some people that I'm hanging around? What is it that I need to do in order to make life for my kids better? You know, I didn't want my kids to make the same mistakes that I made early on. You know, I want them to be wiser. I want them to make better choices, because having kids at an early age out of wedlock, that is a huge burden.
Okay.
And it's not something that I would recommend to anybody. You know, I'm a big abstinence spokesperson. I believe in abstinence. But even if you made choices, there's nothing you can do to change the past, but you can position yourself so that you can do better in the future.
That's good. That's good. Now, excuses that single moms may have.
Right.
What would you say to the single moms who have excuses today saying, I cannot do it?
Take "I can't" out of your vocabulary, because you can. You just need to decide what is it that you're gifted with. You know, what are your abilities? What are your talents? How can I use those natural God-given gifts to make a good life for me, to make a good life for my children? You know, to be able to have a nice home to stay in, to be able to take care of my kids, to not have to depend on the government. Because I truly believe that at some point, some of that subsidized living that the government affords us with, that's going to go away. And then what are you going to do?
Right.
When you get 60 or 70, are you going to be able to draw on anything? If you haven't put anything in, you can't draw anything out. And that's the kind of thinking that our young women need to have. There's nothing wrong with now. Get up and do something now. Don't stay in that same rut.
That's good. That's good. Well, Jennifer Boyd, Principal Jennifer Boyd, we thank you so much for taking the time out to be a guest on the Kevin Dunn Show. I know a lot of women have been blessed by your testimony, and you've enlightened a lot of women. And I just thank you for coming and sharing that. Continued success in all that you seek to do. And I know that doctorate is probably next. But anyway, we'll leave that alone. If there's a topic you would like to see discussed on the Kevin Dunn Show, please email us at thekevindunnshow@wjcntv.com. We thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.